Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to go on record to say that whenever Mr. Massey agrees with us, we get nervous too. To the panel, when everything's said and done, everybody agrees we need to do something. We all know that. That's kind of like the easy, lowest hanging fruit there is. But there's a minor little point. You all run businesses or large organizations. Somebody's going to pay for this. And the question I have, really, and Mr. Smith, to my knowledge, I've been listening to most of everything that's said, not everything. I think you're the only one who suggested a way, other than spending the harbor maintenance fund, which I think is kind of ridiculous that we have to make that argument. The tax have been paid, it's sitting there. But absent that, I'm of the impression that everybody on the panel at least implied that you believe we need to put more money into the system. Now, we're talking about highways, but I want to be real clear. I believe in harbors are critically important, rail is critically important, and transit is critically important, because even if you're not moving goods through transit, your people are moving through transit, especially in the urban areas. All that being said, we need more money. Mr. Smith, you've made some suggestions, and I want to be real clear. Thus far, the smoke signals coming out of the new administration is somehow we're going to do this with just public-private partnerships, no new money. Now, I co-chaired a group looking at public-private partnerships with Mr. Duncan last year, and we came to a unanimous, bipartisan conclusion that they have a role, and they're good, but they're no better than maybe 10% of our needs. So my question for you is, first of all, do you agree that public-private partnerships can't do it all, can't even do most of it? And if so, I would like to hear your suggestions. Mr. Smith, you already answered this part. Your suggestions of where you think we should get the money. Because I will tell you that, I think it was about 3 years ago, we had the president of the Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, sit in that chair and tell us the Chamber of Commerce supported an increase in the gas tax. So for me, that was my first time ever agreeing with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. But at the same time, I'd love to find a way, if I'm open to any way to fund this. And Mr. Smith, do you think that public-private partnerships can do all of this?
No, I think it is something that could do some things, but what needs to happen is to increase the gasoline and diesel taxes, which haven't been increased, the federal ones that hadn't been increased since 1994.
Have you told this to the new administration?
Yes, of course.
Have you told this to my friends on the other side?
Well, I hope they're listening right now. So
wake up, guys, wake up.
But the answer to the question, yes, I told it to the administration as late as yesterday.
Beautiful.
And then secondarily, that I think we should move to some sort of RFID-based vehicle mileage.
You have no arguments with me on any of these. I'm completely open. Mr. McClellan, do you think the public-private partnerships can do the whole thing? And
no,
if not,
I don't. So
where do you
I think
we should get the money?
So I'm not the tax policy expert. I mean, that's the crux of the issue, isn't it? It's a big spend. We've talked about the benefits that it brings to the economy, to jobs. So it's got to be some combination of private-public partnerships, effective tax policy, and also we would say that it's got to be balanced. But the users of the systems, whether it's rivers, roads, railroads, got to have some skin in the game. So there's got to be multiple constituents.
Have you expressed that to the administration? Have they asked?
I have not been invited to.
Well, neither have I, so, you know.
I think you'll get invited before I will.
I wouldn't count on that. Mr. Willicks, what about you? Do you think the P3s can do it all, or do you think that we need to increase revenues?
Experience tells you not. It cannot do that, but otherwise I can tell you a lot about developing cars or producing cars or distributing cars, but I'm not a tax expert either, so I would limit my contribution here to those three fields rather than talking about.
That's fair enough. Ms. Andringa, what do you think?
Yes, thank you. Concur with my colleagues that it has to be in all of the above. That's what we talk about as manufacturers. We're going to need the gas tax, user fees. We're going to need public-private partnerships, maybe bonding, infrastructure bank. And the thing that, I think we just want to remember is the stimulus package that happened in 2009, I think. I think a lot of us thought more money would go to infrastructure in that package, and it was like less than 10%. Now, there were other reasons, and we were in a different economic situation, but I think what's really important is that whatever package, bold package I hear coming from this group, it does have to be, it really has to be used for what it was intended to be used for.
Mr. Trump, I actually know your answer, but you should put it on the record anyway.
No, we don't. We think partnerships have, public-private partnerships have a limited applicability because they need a revenue source. And in fact, if you're going to attract public capital or private capital, that's dependent on having a government source of stream of revenue involved. And unless you can show that on a regular basis, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years out, then private capital is not going to get involved, even for the small percentage of the jobs that they could do. We would support an increase in the gas tax. We think it should have been indexed for inflation years ago. We would also agree with my friend at the end of the table that it ought to be broadened to capture those as changing technology goes by, to capture more of those people, so that as electric cars and other forms of transportation that use highways and use the infrastructure in place but skip out on it, they should be paying their fair share as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to go on record saying I love this panel. Thank you for having them.
I'm glad we made you happy, Mr. Capuano. With that, Governor